All right, we are live with another Travel Tip Tuesday. And today, my guest is John Heinrich, and I am super excited to have him here. He's with RGE Travels, and he has, yes, as you can see in his beautiful display. Thanks for joining us here today, John. I really appreciate you coming out to speak.
Thank you for having me, Lucy.
Absolutely, yeah. So, there's a lot going on right now, right? And all of these I know that the travel industry has been inundated with all of these all of this stuff going on, right? But before we get all into that, I do want to ask you, just tell people about yourself. How did you get into travel?
Ooh. That started in the early 80s when I joined the Army. And in less than a year in the service, I was deployed to Honduras. And as I spent the many years in the Army, I went from Honduras to Panama, back to Panama, and then on to Europe, where I spent 3 glorious years traveling the German and European countryside as a bodyguard for a 4-3 and a 2-star general.
Wow, that sounds crazy. That's more than I've seen.
and because I was a history buff in school, I always loved traveling, although I didn't get the opportunity that much when I was younger as a child. But as an adult, going to places, I have pictures that I think going back many, many years. I won't say how long, but many, many years of places that I remember like they were yesterday. So that bug that got at me for traveling has stayed with me. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I got involved with RGE Travels. And here we are.
That's awesome. I think it's crazy. I think a lot of people get into travel because of the military, because it forces them to, obviously. And I've actually had a couple of friends reach out to me because they were wives of men who were in the military. And then they were like, I've traveled in the military, but like, how do I travel like not in the military? So you found a solution to that, I see.
Well, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to travel when they're in the military, other than deployments, and you don't get to see a whole lot because you're stuck in a military base. However, with the job that I had as a military policeman, we were out actually providing security services for the local governments. So for Honduras, we were in a little town called Comiagua, and when we were in Panama, we were in the Pac side and the Atlantic side before the war.
Wow, that sounds cool. How did you like Honduras?
Very poor, but very beautiful, and the people were extremely friendly. They were very appreciative that we were there to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, I feel like a lot of people have those wants to be able to go to these exotic places, but they just never have the means to be able to do so. But, that's why I'm here, to try and help them to get to those places.
Exactly. So how many countries have you been to?
I have been to 14 countries and 10 states since 2016.
Wow.
So in a short period of time.
In the several years that I've been traveling, had to write it down. I've gone to 42 countries.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. You're living the dream. You get me?
I'll tell you what, for anybody that says, I'm going to wait till I get older to travel, I say don't. Take the time and do it now, because what you see now may not be there, several years from now. Case in point is going to China. When they put up the dam for the gorge dam that they have up there, all the land that used to be there is now gone and it's underwater. So if you had gone there before, you got to see things that aren't there anymore other than what's underwater.
Absolutely. Well, and just a good case in point too is actually Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I went there in 2018 and I got pictures like with it, but like all of that happened. It's like, I know that they're rebuilding it, but I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take them to rebuild it. And that's just crazy to think. When I saw that news, I was like, wow.
Well, you have pictures of the original then.
That's true. That's true. So it's crazy to just think, and that's exactly my point, is to encourage the youth to travel, because it's like we have this expectation that we're supposed to wait until we're once we get past retirement, because that's when we're going to have money, apparently. But, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the interesting thing is the biggest obstacle is getting over the pond, and that is to go from the United States over to Europe. Once you're there, traveling within Europe is a piece of cake, either by train, which is one of the largest areas of transportation in every country, bus, taxi. And if you were to ever do that, once you get there, today, flights are even cheaper because of all the low-cost carriers in Europe.
Absolutely. They have the small little boutique, even planes taking those flights. I remember I once took a flight from England to Denmark, and it cost me 15 pounds, which is equivalent to like $18. Like, what? You know, and like people don't think about it, because people think it's so hard to get to Europe. They think of it as unattainable, and because it's so far away. But I mean, the west coast of the US is also pretty far away. Like,
yes, it is.
You know, and the Texas is actually equivalent to the size of Germany. So it's crazy to think like how comparable, like just Europe, like if you compare states to countries, you can kind of get a better gauge of like how it is over there. But it's the transportation over there. I remember that like yesterday. It was just so easy to get anywhere you wanted to get to, whether it be small or big cities, just plane, train, automobile. Like it's like one of those.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people don't realize that either, that once you get over there, it's easy to do. You can go from culture to culture. So you could be in Spain, and then a few hours you can be in France. Just like kind of being here and going from state to state, but we don't think of it like that. And then it's just like you're immersed in all these cultures, and it's like culture shock after culture shock. So it's really interesting, but
yeah,
it's valuable.
Well, getting there right now, if you don't have a passport, is going to be impossible, because the passport division of the State Department is literally closed down.
Wow.
Yes. So we're looking at a 12 to 16 week hold right now. So
Okay.
if you're wanting to travel and you don't have a passport, don't plan it anytime soon, because the State Department is not open. We have services that do expedited service for your passports. That can't be done either, to include renewals. So
that includes renewals.
Including renewals. Yes.
That's so they think it's going to be another 12 months. So about
12
a year.
weeks.
12 weeks. Okay.
Yes.
I'm like going crazy.
Yep.
12 weeks. All right. So by the end of the year.
To get it started up. Yeah, that's to get it started up again. So
okay.
As the states come back into play with everyone trying to get back to work and back to normal, the federal government, in its infinite wisdom, hasn't started up 100%.
Okay.
So the guinea pigs are us, and they're waiting till we can get everything together, and then they'll start up again.
Yeah, so that's interesting to know about the passports. I mean, I think I read a statistic. It wasn't recently. It was probably in the last year or two, but only about 25 to 30% of Americans actually have their passport.
We're quite deficient in that. And with the new rules, I think they're going to extend the requirement for the driver's license requirements for the safe passenger rules, where you have to have a star on it, till I believe 2021, because it was supposed to be implemented and gone into effect by October 1st this year. But with everything that's going on, they'll extend that out too. Yeah,
you're talking about the enhanced, driver's license. We don't know about that in Florida, because we're not special enough, I guess. No, but they're usually, a lot of them are in the states that are bordering, like Canada or Mexico. They have those enhanced driver's licenses that can act as passports, which are really cool.
Right. That's what, if you're going to end up traveling from state to state, when that comes into full implementation, you're going to be required to either have that updated driver's license, or you're going to have to travel with your passport. And if you have neither, you're not going anywhere.
That's in regards to states?
That's in regards to states, yes. So the implementation of that was supposed to be October 1st, 2020. We've heard that is now extending into 2021 because of the closures of all the state driver's license bureaus.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy to think that that shift is happening and we don't even realize it.
Well, we've been, what, closed down for 100 days or so? As we've been closed down 100 days, Europe has been closed down a little bit longer. So as they slowly open up, and people hear on the news, they're not slowly opening up for us to go there. They're slowly opening up so that their member states that's in the EU can go and travel within each other. And that goes for a lot of countries that are out there. In our research, there is a website called IATAcenter.com. That's IATA Travel Center, CENTRE.com. So IATA Travel Center.com. And on there, you can see in a map that shows exactly what's going on with the countries. Now, like everything else, it's slow to update because each state, they have to go in and they have to attempt to get the information and update it manually.
Yeah.
Places like Brazil and South America, closed. You're not going to be able to get there at all.
Wow.
And they have 1, 2, 3, 4 restrictions. You have totally, partially, non, and currently under review. Most of Africa right now is totally restrictive. And it's the same with Europe and Asia, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, most of the other, Uzbekistan, are all totally restrictive, so you can't go in there. Poland, right now, you can't even get into Poland, nor can you get into Ukraine. So when people think about traveling, your travel timeline is going to be probably 60 to 90 days. Now, if things change and the amount of COVID cases drop significantly across the board, like they have in New Zealand, where they just reported 15 days of no new cases at all, and more than 20 days of no hospitalizations, they're opening up all their economy internally.
Wow.
And then we'll hear probably within 30 days or so how they're going to end up handling travelers coming into the country.
Interesting. So before we go a little bit further with that, I do have a question that came up here from Alana. Hi, Alana. And she said that she saw signs about that in her January flights. What's the purpose of that? And I think she's regarding to the licenses in the States.
If you don't have a passport to travel, then the new integrated security procedures for your driver's license has to be implemented. So, but now you need to ask again, because we've been hearing that the October 1st deadline has been pushed off.
Okay, and that's what regarding IDs, yes.
Correct,
so,
and that's in the United States itself. So from flying from New York to California, you would have to have that type of ID as of October 1st, 2020. And again, the information that we're getting is that's going to extend beyond because of the amount of driver's license bureaus that have been closed and unable to update those.
Interesting. But so they were planning on this before COVID happened, though, right?
Correct. It's been going on since 2014.
That's interesting because we don't have that yet in Florida. So
yes, ma'am, we do.
We do?
Yes, ma'am.
I just recently got a new license and it didn't. Is it that little star?
It has the hologram.
Now I want to look at my ID. Now I'm going to look at my ID, guys.
I have an old ID that doesn't have the hologram in it. Okay.
Oh, so it's just this little. You guys don't steal my information here.
Exactly. That's it right there.
Just this.
That's the enhanced security.
Oh, okay. So it's just an enhanced security regarding.
Yes.
Okay. Because I thought that there was but I can't use this as a passport.
No, you cannot. That's only for traveling in the United States for proper ID.
Okay. A lot of There's now.
Yeah. If you have one like,
Thanks for that question, Alana.
if you have one like I have that has no star in it whatsoever, I don't know if you can see.
Oh,
There's
you
no
still have
star
the
on there.
green bar on there?
Yes. Excuse me.
Just kidding.
That's all right. That means I would have to, when the time comes, I would have to have the update or my trusty dusty passport.
Your trusty dusty passport.
Yes.
That's great. I like that term, trusty dusty. All right. So going back to internationally, that's good to know. That's good information just locally traveling that's going to be implemented and I'm sure passed along. But so going back to international, those other countries, what so you said in New Zealand that they haven't seen any new cases
For 20 days.
Wow.
So that's great for them. No new cases at all, no hospitalizations. So
Wow.
as they're concerned right now, COVID is dead in New Zealand. And they started opening up their economy, I believe, about 24 hours ago.
Wow. So but that's them starting into the phases and everything, kind of like we are
No,
here?
I don't know what their phases are, but when they said they were opening their economy as a whole, I took it as they were opening up everything immediately.
Wow.
However, that's just for internal travel in the country of oh God, what, New Zealand. Sorry.
New Zealand.
Old age.
That's all right. That's all right. So, prices and such going to these places. I mean, are they booking travel out there? For
Not yet.
2021? Not even.
Booking travel that far out right now. Remember, we can usually only book out up to 60 days.
Oh, really? Is that the case?
Sometimes 90 days. But the interesting thing about air travel right now is you can't find the routes because they're not open yet. We've restricted air traffic in the United States to where local airports, as an example, Stewart Airfield or International Airport in New York, it's in the Hudson Valley of New York, that has only one flight going in and out of it weekly. Delta, JetBlue had pulled out when all this COVID stuff started. And then they're looking at probably resuming flights in September.
Wow. So those are for like smaller airlines and stuff.
Yeah.
I know that when I had my friend who was a flight attendant come on, she had talked about how they have drastically reduced the amount of flights going out.
Correct.
Just internally and in the US. And then of course,
we also heard recently that United Airlines is closing down their hub in Frankfurt, which is going to cause havoc.
Wow.
Yes. So I think you're going to see at the end of the year, until travel peaks massively, you're going to see a lot more layoff in the airlines.
Wow. So I have another question here from Alana. Austria being a huge point of connecting flights, so you were just saying Frankfurt, but Austria, is there a specific margin of COVID cases that it has to be below before them reopening?
That's up to each country. And right now, as they open up, the nation states that are in the EU are opening up to each other and traveling to each other. Anyone else outside that can't go into there. So as Americans wanting to get, and trust me, there are a lot of people that want to just get out and go do their thing. You can't get to Europe.
Wow.
Yep. And if you do, and when this all starts up, we're probably looking at some sort of restriction like a 14-day self-quarantine.
Yeah, I had read an article earlier today actually about Iceland doing something like that. So expand a little bit on that,
If a country mandates a 14-day quarantine and you're going on a vacation, 14 days of that vacation is going to be stuck in a hotel room.
Wow.
Yes. And remember, when you go to Europe and most any other foreign country, the first thing they do is they take a copy of your passport. And then they give your passport back. Well, it's up to them to manage you while you're in their hotel. So if they see you leaving and they have a 14-day quarantine, expect the local police to stop by and probably arrest you. This happened in Hawaii. not too long ago where several people had flown to Hawaii, said
Yeah.
they were going to do the 14-day quarantine, then went out and partied and put it on social media, and somebody reported them, and the police came and arrested them.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
So, but they'll probably give you, I'm sure the airlines are giving you ample amount of information, like if you do, like, so if they do open back up, right? And then they are, you know, saying that, I would presume that they would tell you, first of all, you'll be in a 14-day quarantine if you're going to this specific country, right?
We would hope, but I never
Yeah.
put it up to the airlines doing anything that they're supposed to do. It's not that I'm anti-airline. It's the fact that as travelers, we have to take on the individual responsibility that before we get on the plane, we know the rules and the regulations of what we're doing, where we're going.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing about it. If you don't know what the rules are when you get there, who are you going to blame when you get there? You've got to hold some personal responsibility when it comes to this stuff, and understand that flying from here, flying to Iceland, flying to Portugal, Spain, Mexico, may have a 14-day self-quarantine. In that 14 days, your vacation could be eaten up inside a hotel room. Who wants to go 14 days somewhere and spend 14 days in a hotel room? I don't.
Well, maybe we'll get one of those really fancy hotel rooms, like the igloos in Iceland, and I can watch the Northern Lights or something. Yeah. From my hotel room.
Speaking of Northern Lights, Canada has barred all foreign travel into there. I think right now until October 1st. So no cruise lines. Literally, the cruise industry going into Canada right now has shut down, except for one cruise line, and that's Uni Cruise or Uni World, or Uncruise, excuse me. And that's because they'll do a round trip from seaward, go down, see the ports, and then come back up. But they're the only ones, and their ships are less than 100 people. Wow. But everyone else, their season is shut down out of Alaska.
Wow. I have one more question, or well, you know, as of right now. Marcus said he's going to Deutschland, Germany, in July 1st. So that's in a month. What can he expect? I mean,
well, first off, I don't know where you're flying from to Germany, but you may have to look at a 14-day holdover in self-isolation. We haven't learned any information yet on whether there's going to be requirements for blood tests for getting into a country, or blood tests once you get there, and then have it taken right then and there. Remember the fact that taking your temperature is great if you are infected and you're showing signs. If you're called asymptomatic, where you show no signs of illness, the temperature is not going to matter, but you can still spread the disease and have the disease.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm surprised. I wonder when he had that plan for, if that was like something really, really far ahead of before, and they just didn't cancel that, because I don't know.
Correct. There are, in the consortium that we belong to in our travel business, there were people asking about Mexico opening up, and a lot of people are still wanting to go as soon as July, but their hotels are still closed down. So getting there may be one flight, but once you're there, then you have nowhere to stay.
So he said he'll be in Swiss Saxony. He holds an EU passport.
So traveling there may not be a problem as long as he's not symptomatic, or he's had a blood test, or he's had no symptoms. But it's something to ask the local people, or your local government officials, on what the rules are going to be.
Yeah, it's good information. So the countries that are there any countries that have said that they're opening up at a specific time at all?
Other than, well, as far as opening up right now, countries are opening up internally first. When the EU ends up opening up, they're opening up to their nation states first. And then from there, once they see that there's no further cases of COVID and there's not a spike in new cases, I then believe that they'll say, okay, let's expand this out now to international travel. But remember, international travel was exactly how we got this way.
You're not wrong.
Yep.
Not
Sorry.
wrong.
Sorry for all the bad news, everyone. Trust me.
Well, it's good to be updated on what, expectations. And that's, I think the biggest thing is what can we expect moving forward? How has this changed the aspect of travel? And just taking that for what it is.
Well, caution and care is the biggest thing. Wherever you're going to go, you should wear a mask, no matter what. I don't care what your political beliefs are. When you're going, the mask is protect you from getting sick and you from getting somebody else sick. So the idea of not going out anywhere and not having a mask on is, in my words, irresponsible, especially when you're traveling. Now, when you get on planes, depending on the airline, and you have to check with the individual airline, you may be required to wear a mask. Expect limited service on these planes now. You're not going to get, if you're in first class, you're not going to get that nice meal and cocktails and stuff like you used to have. It's going to be very limited. So expect that right up front.
Yep, there's that. I had gotten that information from my friend who was a flight attendant who came on, and she had talked about that they were requiring masks. And then, some of the cruises I hear are taking off their buffets, like they're going to be doing away with that in general. Right?
You're talking horrible language there. Let's put it this way. Sorry. Cruises will keep their buffets, but you won't be able to go and dish out as much food as you want on your plate. What they'll probably end up having, they'll have workers there with gloves on. They'll take the plate. You're not going to pick it up any longer. They'll dish out the food, and then they'll hand it to you. And then you can come back in line and do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
And over and over until you're dead. No, I'm just kidding. No, but in the food coma, a nice good food coma.
Exactly.
By the pool.
Yes, that's and what we're hearing right now is just like if you haven't been to a particular restaurant yet and they don't like handing out the menus, what they're now doing is everything online. So you would end up taking your phone, you would scan a barcode that's on there or take a picture of it, and it automatically shoot out to the website that they have where their menu is. We're looking at possibly seeing cruise lines do the same thing when it comes to their boat drills, their lifeboat drills. And every cruise line that you go on, you have to do a lifeboat drill before you depart port. So if they do that, what they may end up doing is probably put one of these inside a room where you end up getting on there, and then they can manage how many people have gotten onto or they can literally check and see how many people have gotten onto it to do the lifeboat drills. So as we know, life in the past is not going to be the same in the very near future because of the precautions we're going to have to take with COVID.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's going to change the landscape of a lot of things, and it already has. I mean, technology now, look at us. Look, we're doing a Zoom call or whatever this is called, whatever. So, it's
well, think of it this way. This has caused havoc on all kinds of businesses, but the travel industry in itself has been brought to its knees. And we as purveyors of that are in the middle between the supplier and the customer. With cruise lines that we've had gone out and those that have canceled, literally we have people waiting who were supposed to go out in early April may have already received their refunds back. But those that went out and that were supposed to go out in the middle of April or into May probably won't see those refunds for at least 90 days. And it's a shame, but that's something that we're dealing. We're dealing with millions of people that travel in the United States that go on cruises that you either get what they call a future cruise credit for a future cruise, or you wanted your money back and now you're waiting for it.
Haven't a lot of them given you extra money though? On
future
top
cruise
of
credit.
Your cruise
The future cruise credit, most of them have given like 125%. Now there is a catch-22 to that. Number one is For both people in the cabin, you have to choose the same thing. So if they went and they said, I want a future cruise credit and I want my money back, they're not going to do that. That's not the way they operate, and the cruise lines are pretty much saying you have to do one or the other for both parties. Then when it comes to spending that, let's say your cruise was 28 something and they gave you 125% minus the taxes and fees. Always remember that. They had to refund you the taxes and fees. So minus the taxes and fees, and now you have an estimated, let's say, $3,300. Trying to find your next cruise that's in that $3,300 range isn't always easy, because it's depending on how long the cruise is. It depends on what type of cabin you get, and it also depends on whether or not the cruise lines are upping their prices or lowering the prices. So you may, in either case, come in and spend more money on a cruise cabin than you did with the future cruise credit.
So that's actually what I was going to ask, is like, when it comes to flights, what do you project that it's going to be when it gets back? So when flights do open up, do you think that it's going to be more expensive or cheaper because they're trying to get people on? Because I know that in the US, like, they've been doing a lot of flights that are cheaper to try and get people to travel and like do, domestic travel. But I'm wondering what it will be like internationally.
It's going to be a difficult call because we don't know how many airlines are going to fall between now and then. And when you end up seeing a lot of things that are going on out there, we have airlines that we don't know are going to be in business or not in the very short time period.
So it really just depends on that supply and demand type of thing.
It's part of the quagmire we're all in. Yeah. We won't know until we get to 100% again, and that's the hard part.
Well, we know that the travel industry is resilient, so people are always going to want that need to travel.
Yes, there are a lot of people out there that are biting at the bit to say, when can I go? And we have phone calls and emails all the time say, when can I go? When can I go? And we're caught in the middle again with, we don't know yet until the government allows us to do this, and we're allowed to do that.
I wonder what that's going to do. Like, I wonder if they're just going to do like a small influx, like, only a certain amount of people can go, and then rather than like be like, yeah, everything's open right like this date, like July 1st, you know what I mean, like just throwing a date out there, like let's say it was all July 1st, and then everybody runs out and everybody's trying to go at the same time.
Airlines, as you saw in some of the videos that are out there, who were supposed to have the middle seat not taken, shoved people in there to fill the planes up. So when it comes to that, airlines are going to try to fill the planes as much as possible. Their safety and concern is making sure the plane doesn't crash. Other than that, it's getting you in and getting you from point A to point B as quickly, as safely as possible, but probably with the max capacity that they can do. When you look at cruise lines, I think you're going to start out hopefully with about a 50% capacity, because you have to look at, when you have a ship that can hold 3,000 people and you have 2 meal times, one early, one late, with 1,500 people in each. 1,500 people in a crowded dining room, one person gets sick, and you're talking about exponentially a whole new sickness and a whole new wave.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. So I wonder how they'll combat that. I know that the flights started off with only being like 40% and then 60%, and I don't know what point they're at now. But I had heard that they upgraded their air filtering systems. So
okay,
I don't know. We're like, it's now like, I think it's even more, the air is overturning even more, like filtering even more. Like normally it would be like what, let's say once an hour or twice an hour or something, and now it's like 5 or 6 times an hour.
Like sadly, since the early 90s, I think it was, or maybe the early 2000s, airlines have been using recycled air, and because it's cheaper. And we can only hope that they have a good HEPA filter to get these viruses out, but I'll wear my mask no matter what.
Yeah, well, they're requiring, well, the ones that I've heard of are requiring those masks, and as well as upgrading their filters. So hopefully it'll all be good. Yeah.
Well, as far as now, that's international travel. Just I'll dive into this one real quick. Disney. We should be seeing Disney opening up soon.
Yeah.
We're looking at June into July. You're going to be, again, capacity controlled. So if someone's wanting to come in, the first thing Disney's doing is you have to be an annual pass holder. If you have reservations and you're already there, or if they were canceled, you're not getting first priority. They're doing annual pass holders first, no matter what. And that would be probably those that already have the annual passes, not those people that are running out to get new annual passes. So it's kind of difficult, again, surveying the whole field that's out there because of their ever-changing rules that they're going to have. I've gone to Disney Springs twice, and twice that I've gone there, I've had my temperature taken at the point of entry.
Okay.
And you are required to wear a mask. And they do have employees that walk around for people that get tired of wearing the mask. They tell you you need to wear the mask or you need to leave.
Interesting. Well, is there any other tidbits that you'd like to share with us about upcoming information?
Well, currently the State Department's travel is still at a global health advisory level 4, do not travel. As of June 2nd, we had an update on the passport operations that they're going to hopefully start soon. But like everything else, it's hurry up and wait, my old military term. So anyone that is ever traveling in the United States, going anywhere out in the world, the first thing you want to do is go on to state.gov. That's state.gov. That's the State Department's website. Until we start bringing down that health advisory level to 2 and 1, I think you're going to see some restrictions in travel just about anywhere. And they're still behind in their updates on this, like everyone else. So that's that. Well,
thank you, John. And if they want to get in contact with you, I have you linked in our description and such like that. But go ahead and let them know how they can contact you if they have any further questions.
Sure. You can go to our website at www.rgetravels.com, or you can email me at john@rgetravels.com, and the owner, Ray, at rgetravels.com. Either one. Our local number is 772-873-7766. That's 772-873-7766 if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, John. Thanks for sharing your expertise and all of those great platforms. I'll have to make sure to get those from you and put them in the comments or in the description so that they can reference them.
My pleasure.
But yeah, thank you so much. And to everyone on Facebook and YouTube, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. We do a new Travel Tip Tuesday every Tuesday. And we'd love to have you guys come on. I have new guests every week, and we talk about traveling and what that's going to look like in the future, whatever that might be.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly. All right. Thanks, John. And thanks to all who are watching. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye now.